Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on just the Arrowverse and DCTV as a whole. So we are, well, for some reason I was going to say slowly approaching, but in reality we are very quickly or very fastly approaching the end of this season of the Arrowverse shows on the CW, with of course Superman, Lois and The Flash both having 4 episodes left for this season, with both of them now, after another delay with Superman and Lois, the 17th millionth delay in regards to their episodes coming out. They both those shows will have their finales on the same week. So hopefully that week leaves us with 2 good and exciting finales, as well as just good and exciting things to be looking forward to in their next seasons of each respective show. However, one thing that will be brought up, I'm sure, over the off season in some way, outside of whatever those 2 shows leave us with, is just what's going on with this Diggle-led Justice U spin-off show that was announced as being in development right at the beginning of this year. I think it was in like the second week of January, I'm pretty sure, when it was originally announced by both the CW and WB or Warner Brothers TV. Now, in regards to this potential Justice U Diggle spin-off show, what we were told back in that original announcement in January was that in this new series, which is set in the Arrowverse, they tried to point that out, even though I was like, well, it's Diggle, but anyway, in this new series, after years of fighting alongside masked heroes, Diggle embarks on a new mission to recruit 5 young metahumans to live undercover as freshmen at a prestigious university. There, he will oversee their education and train them to become the heroes of tomorrow. So this concept had people go, okay, that's pretty interesting. I think it just depends on the general scope of the show, as well as who's included and what the general storyline is. Like, where does it lead? Like, we have the premise, but where does it lead as a whole? But in addition to, this announcement that David Ramsey would be starring as Diggle in the series, if it is actually picked up to pilot, he would actually direct the pilot as well, alongside this new contract where he'd be directing a bunch of the other shows on the CW. And I think he directed 2 episodes of Superman and Lois this season, and then I think like 1 or 2 episodes of Batwoman. Don't think he did a Flash episode from memory, but he did at least 2 on Superman and Lois, and I think at least 1 on Batwoman, and that contract is meant to go into multiple years going forward, and that included what was going on with this Justice U stuff as well. Now, as I said, in regards to any other news or anything like that in regards to this Justice U spin-off, we haven't got anything. Like, this initial announcement, that was it in regards to the CW or Warner Brothers TV or anyone in that higher power saying anything about it. However, for the show, like all this, the potential show, there have been some characters such as like Tag Harris from Superman and Lois and Tinya Waza, who was recently on The Flash, that people believe could be characters that potentially are used as these young metas that Diggle will oversee and be a mentor to. And that could easily be the case, and that could have been potential minor setup in the background. But I think the more likely option would be that they are completely new characters that at least we haven't seen at this point in time. Maybe they could be set up on another show leading up to this if it does happen. But if you ask me to pick an option, I'd say they're going to be completely new, and then we haven't seen these characters within the Arrowverse before. And along with them, you would have to assume that Lila, Diggle's wife, would also be a character that at the very least shows up from time to time on the show if it does go forward. Don't know if she'd be a regular, but you'd have to think that that character will show up every now and then at the very least. But as I said, there hasn't been any public stuff released by the CW or Warner Brothers in regards to this since the original announcement, and some might think that that is a really bad thing. And while it's not extremely positive, I mean, the show being announced as going forward would be that extremely positive news. But we just had the CW upfronts recently where they, of course, announced a good amount of information, whether that was on stage or just in general press releases before they went on stage. And they didn't say that Justice U was no longer happening, along with some other shows in development, like that Zorro show. Some of you might have heard about that, I think like late last year or something like that. The only show they really talked about that was announced previously but hasn't moved forward to the degree that they would want, where it's, about to air on TV, is that Powerpuff Girls show. And I think this was only talked about because someone asked a direct question about it. And that filmed a pilot last pilot season. So when like Naomi, I think would have been like Naomi's thing. So Naomi had a full season, then was cancelled. Powerpuff Girls filmed when I guess Naomi would have been filming their pilot. So yeah, a while ago. But that was put on the back burner to rework the show, as apparently it was in like a bit of poor taste. But it wasn't scrapped. Like, actors are still attached to it. Only one of the actors left. And that's just because it had other commitments. And obviously the show was just like as I said, it was on the back burner. But it's still in development at this point. The CW made that clear. They didn't say it's not moving forward. Now, shows do go on the back burners. Like, this isn't a CW show, but a show that a lot of people might be familiar with was The Middle. So that sitcom is the one that people confuse with Malcolm in the Middle all the time. But The Middle, it had like the wife from Everyone Loves Raymond. I don't know, is that a Boomer reference? I don't know. But anyway, that filmed a pilot. It wasn't well received and was put on the back burner for like a year and a half, or maybe even like 2 whole seasons of TV. And then it redid its pilot, a year and a half, 2 years later. It was, agreed upon. It's like, hey, we like this. And then the show ran for 9 seasons. So it failed at the beginning, was put on they didn't know what to do with it. They just left it for a bit, came back, and then it went for 9 seasons. So things like this happen. Like, the bad news is when you get the announcement that they aren't moving forward with the project, which we've had before, specifically with DC's stuff on the CW. Green Arrow and the Canaries, Painkiller, they both fell through, weren't picked up, no moving forward there. That's the type of announcement you're sort of waiting for in regards to the bad thing. Now, one thing a couple of people sent me, which I thought was pretty interesting, is that Stephen Amell, who of course played Oliver Queen or, Green Arrow on Arrow, he was at a convention, I think it was with Katie Cassidy. It was like only a few weeks ago, maybe like 3 weeks, I'll say like 3, maybe 4 weeks ago or something like that. And he referenced that David Ramsey was still attached to it. Now, of course, that wasn't David Ramsey saying that himself. So you can't take that as massive proof. That's just, I guess that could be Stephen going, hey, yeah, like from last I heard, he was still doing it and he's still attached to it. And I guess even if it was announced or he knew that it wasn't happening, it still wasn't official. So he can't go, oh, breaking news, here's the scoop from Stephen Amell. It'd be random if he'd said that. So, I mean, he said he was still attached to it, and I saw people saying, hey, that means it's, 100% still happening. I was like, well, definitely don't take that as massive proof. It's nothing really to overly, dive into and focus too much on, if you know what I mean. Now, the thing with Justice You, and I think I said this on the original video when I talked about it, is that this is a show where they would film a quote-unquote pilot episode, but it is also a show where they wouldn't necessarily need to film it during pilot season. They could easily just do a show, or this show could be one that just picked up to series straight away. Superman and Lois was picked up to series, that's what it was. So it didn't have to film a pilot, wait multiple months. It just, went straight to series. COVID played a bit, in that, but it's still, some of the shows still filmed a pilot and took a break and everything like that. Superman and Lois just filmed straight, into doing the entire series. So Justice You could be in that. But if that's the case, you're going to be waiting a while because we obviously know their full schedule for next season. So if Justice You is going to happen, it's going to be like after, I guess if like a hypothetical season 10 of The Flash happened, it'd be during that season. So it'd be a while away. But this has obviously brought up the question, because this is a spin-off, what other shows could we see, DC-wise on the CW, whether it's on Earth Prime in the Arrowverse or elsewhere in the multiverse? And a good amount of people want a Bart and Nora or Impulse and Excess spin-off, which I think is a sort of decent idea, but I would just prefer episodes within the actual seasons of The Flash with those characters. Not 100% a complete spin-off show with the two. Like, I just don't know if that would work 100%, at least in like the long run, like once you get past that initial first season. Just because at the end of the day, it would just feel like Flash 2.0, especially now they have like Nora as a reporter and everything like that. Just like, okay, well, they're making Nora into Iris. Like that in one of the recent Flash episodes. And that was the issue that Green Arrow and the Canaries had. It just was going to be like Arrow 2.0, but just not as good as Arrow. So I think attempting to make it its own show would be setting it up for eventual failure, like Green Arrow and the Canaries, though I think a Bart and Nora spinoff would be better received by fans over what Green Arrow and the Canaries was trying to be. But yeah, it's definitely one that I see on like very, very regularly, like Bart and Nora potential spin-off. Another option is just new characters that are introduced elsewhere in the Arrowverse, though the track record does show that maybe introducing that character or characters that would be the centerpiece of that potential new show, they should appear in another show before the start of that new show. So it's like, when they wanted to do Batwoman, they introduced her on Elseworlds. Even with Superman and Lois, he'd been, Superman specifically had been sprinkled through, and then we met Lois in Elseworlds that let us know about her, get used to this Lois, think, hey, this is a good Lois, and then we see her in Superman and Lois as well. So you set up the characters in that way in small little bits, and then they get their moment in the spotlight with their own show. Another option that a good amount of people talk about is spin-offs from Stargirl. Now, one clear one that people talked about, I don't know if this is probably the one you'd jump to straight away, but the Seven Soldiers of Victory was something that was brought up in Stargirl Season 1 specifically, and I think partly mentioned in Season 2. Maybe it's brought up in Season 3 again. I don't know. But that's like a potential spin-off you could easily do. But even just like solo character shows focusing on elements of the golden age of DC Comics, which Stargirl embraces, you got a good amount you can pick from there. The issue is that would some of these takes be dated, or would you have to be, would they have to be set, X amount of years ago? Would they all be in the present day, or is that really Stargirl's place to shine, if you want to put it? And then these other spin-offs from other characters that may be a reference or introduced, take place in the past or whatever it might be. But I think Stargirl has like probably the best chance of spinning off some stuff in regards to like creativity and like a breath of fresh air, because Stargirl itself was a bit of a breath of fresh air just in regards to DC TV, whether it was the CW or the stuff that's now on HBO Max. This is probably the option I like the most because I love Stargirl and I love pretty much all the characters on there and just the world it has. So this is probably where I would land if I had the choice. And the last option is just because I think it'd be weird to ignore it, is just spin-offs from Gotham Knights. Now, of course, this is a complete wait and see situation. We don't know what that show is going to be like and how people will receive it, and just overall what the demand there would be for more things in that world. And just in itself, I guess it's a spin-off from Batman. So it's like, is it going to be a spin-off of a spin-off? So it depends how they set up their world and whether they even like build it large enough to the point where you go, okay, well, we could do a spin-off here. And that we don't know until we actually get to see the show. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think it's going to be very within Gotham, if you know what I mean. I don't think it's really going to open any doors to stepping outside of Gotham as a whole. But as I said, it's a complete wait and see situation because we have seen nothing from this show at this point. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it, show your support. Let me know in the comment section down below your general opinions on all of this, your thoughts, your predictions. Do you think Justice U will happen? Do you think it's just going to sit there for a bit and then they'll eventually say, yeah, it's not happening? And if you could choose one spin-off out of any of the ones I mentioned, or your own complete new one, let me know in the comment section down below, because I'm sure there'll be a variety of answers. But yeah, let me know all that in the comments. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I will catch you guys later. Goodbye.